Joseph was alive. So, but that's the difference. Hopefully that answered that. And hold on a second. So that was Facebook. Did it die out again? Or that's just my phone died? It went out. What the world y'all doing? Okay. Go ahead. You say you got something? Yeah, go ahead. You got to come up. Get the mic.
Can you explain Exodus 15 and 16? Because it says until the Lord has purchased us, but I thought...
Yeah, speaking that.
I said it says because the Lord has purchased us, but I thought he picked us because we was like few of many nations, like the least amount of people out of all the nations.
Right. Okay. You said Exodus what now?
15 and 16.
Exodus 15, verse 16? Yep. Okay. Exodus 15, verse 16. Let's see. Okay. Let's go ahead and read it. Go ahead, read it.
Fear and dread shall fall upon them. By the greatness of thine arm, they shall be as still as a stone.
Mm-hmm.
To thy people pass over, O Lord. To the people pass over, which thou hast purchased.
Okay. So yeah, you know, that's more figure of speech. Actually, back up to verse 1. So you see, really, this is them singing a song, and it's just, you know, telling you how the Lord did his thing. Pick it up at verse 1.
Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord,
okay.
And spake, saying.
Okay, so really, so this is what's going on. They singing a song, first of all. So it's not like this is something that's just, you know, laying down the Lord giving you some concrete scripture that understand what's happening. They singing a song, and what they say, start off.
I will sing unto the Lord, for he have triumphed gloriously.
I will sing unto the Lord, for he have triumphed gloriously. What happened?
The horse and his rider have been thrown into the sea.
Okay, we know what that is. Go ahead.
The Lord is my strength and song.
Uh-huh.
He has become my salvation.
Uh-huh.
He is my God,
Uh-huh.
and I will prepare him an habitation.
Uh-huh.
My father's God, and I will exalt him.
Uh-huh.
The Lord is a man of war.
Uh-huh.
The Lord is his name.
Okay, so this is what we got going on. They singing a song. Now, I've actually, it's funny. I've seen people take issue with that at verse 3. You know, this is a song again. They sing it, and they said, the Lord is a man of war. Well, how the Lord? The Lord ain't no man. Yeah, it's figure of speech. That's all it is. Yeah, the Lord ain't no literal man, but it's kind of what we call hyperbole. It's a figure of speech. It's letting you know he know how to fight. The Lord is his name. But keep going, verse 4.
Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea.
Uh-huh.
His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea.
So again, they singing a song, they rehearsing all this great stuff that the Lord have done. Go ahead.
The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone.
Go ahead.
Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power.
Uh-huh.
Thy right hand, O Lord, have dashed in pieces the enemy.
Uh-huh. The Lord put a hurting on Egypt. That's all it's saying. So then, now let's skip down to verse 15 and read that. Go ahead.
Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed.
The mighty men.
Yeah. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed,
Mm-hmm.
and the mighty men of Moab, trembling shall take hold upon them.
Mm-hmm.
All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away.
Mm-hmm.
Fear and dread shall fall upon the...
Okay, so now it's going into some of the stuff the Lord going to do later, and it's talking about fear and dread shall fall upon them. So actually, we dealing with something, you know, to come Go ahead.
By the greatness of thine arm shall they be as still as a stone. To thy people pass over, O Lord. To the people pass over, which thou hast purchased.
Okay. So he said, which thou hast purchased. So ultimately, that's what the Lord did in the final analysis. You know, he started with, you know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But ultimately, the Lord likened it to when he got Israel to purchasing Israel. Let's see what he purchased them with, by the way. Let's go all the way into the New Testament to Peter. 2 Peter, I think it's the first chapter. 2 Peter. So that's used real frequently. But I'm gonna read this in Peter, then we go back to the Old Testament. I think it's verse. What I said, say, oh, 1 Peter, that's it. 1 Peter. 1 Peter 1. 1 Peter 1. And let's just read this verse, pick it up at verse 18. Go ahead.
For so much as you know that you were redeemed with
Not redeemed.
that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold,
Uh-huh.
for your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot.
He said, but with the precious blood of Christ as of a lamb. So this is really how you got purchased, with the precious blood of Christ as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. And we know it's purchased in that regard, because he said, for as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold. And even when Israel left Egypt, that's how they left. They had that blood of that lamb, which of course represented the blood of Christ. That's how they got passed over in Egypt, with the blood of that lamb. So it wasn't corruptible things like silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your father, but with the precious blood of Christ as of a lamb without spot and without blemish. But now go back to Psalm, just to say it, I use that all the time as a manner of speaking, because that's really how the Lord did it. Psalm 78. Even when he talk about the land that he was giving to Israel. 78, pick it up. See, this is why the Lord is always talking about Israel, telling Israel, look, you seen what I did. You seen what I did. You seen all the stuff I did. Basically, God is saying, I earned the right to be your God, and the way I delivered you from Pharaoh. Psalm 78, and let's see. This is a long chapter, so we're going to read some of the things, verse 12, and we're going to bounce around. Psalm 78 and 12, because this is all going back to when they came out of Egypt, which is really what Exodus 15, they were singing a song after they went through the Red Sea. 12.
Marvelous things did he in the sight of their fathers. In the land of Egypt,
Yes, sir.
in the field of Zoan, he divided the sea and caused them to pass through. And he made the waters to stand as a heap. In the daytime also, he led them by a cloud, and all the night with a light of fire.
So he did all this. And this is the manner of speaking. This is the Lord's power. He's showing, look, I earned this. I did all of this for you. So obviously the Lord didn't, quote unquote, pay nobody, no purchase price. No, it's what the Lord did. He earned it. And not only that, ultimately he earned it, by dying for the people. And that was already in the works. But now, keep reading.
He clave the rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink as of out of the great depths.
Yes, sir.
He brought streams also out of the rock and caused waters to run down like rivers.
That's what he did. He did all that in the wilderness. But then, read verse, what did we do? 18.
And they tempted God in their heart by asking meat for their lust.
See, we tempted God still. Go ahead.
Yea, they spake against God. They said, can God furnish a table in the wilderness?
Can God furnish a table in the wilderness? Go ahead.
Behold, he smote the rock that the waters gushed out and the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide flesh for his people?
Go ahead.
Therefore the Lord heard this and was wroth.
He was upset.
So fire was kindled against Jacob.
Yes, sir.
And anger also came up against Israel.
Why?
Because they believed not in God and trusted not in his salvation.
Go ahead.
Though he had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven.
The Lord said, I already did everything to show I done purchased you. You belong to me now. And you still don't believe me. Though he had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven and what?
And had rained down manna upon them to eat.
He said, I did all that for you. Go ahead.
And had given them of the corn of heaven. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. He caused an east wind to blow in the heaven. And by his power he brought in the south wind. And he rained flesh also upon them as dust, and feathers and feathered fowls, like as the sand of the sea.
See, that's when, and he gave them meat, and he said, I'm gonna give you this meat till it come out your nose. He was mad at him when he gave him that meat. Skip to 30, just get a little bit of that, verse 30.
Nevertheless, they did flatter him with their mouth.
Verse 30, you at 30, where you at?
Oh, I'm sorry, 30. They were not estranged from their lust, but while their meat was yet in their mouths, the wrath of God came upon them and slew the fattest of them and smote down the chosen men of Israel. For all this they sinned still and believed not the wondrous works and believed not his wondrous works. Therefore, their days did he consume in vanity and their years in trouble. When he slew them, then they sought him, and they returned and inquired early after God. And they remembered that God was their rock, and the high God their Redeemer. Nevertheless, as they did flatter him with their mouth, and they lied unto him with their tongues.
They was faking. But let's show he even go into all the stuff again, what he did in Egypt, because that's how he really showed Israel, look, you belong to me. Skip down to verse 50, because he flashed back to Egypt, all that he had done. But they provoking him in the desert after he did all of this. 50.
He made a way to his anger. He spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt, and the chiefs of their strength in the tabernacle of Ham, but made his own people to go forth like sheep, and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. And he led them on safely, so that they feared not, but the sea overwhelmed their enemies. And he brought them to the border of his sanctuary, even to his mountain, even to this mountain, which his right hand had purchased.
Which his right hand had purchased. So it's just a little hyperbole because he ain't really give nobody no money and say, give me this. But it's a manner of speaking. The Lord said, I prepared all this for you. I took care of this, got this for you. Go to 74 right quick. Right here in Psalm 74, pick it up at 1. 74 and 1. So it's just how God talk a lot of times. Go ahead.
O God, why hast thou cast us off forever? Why doth thine anger smoke against the sheep of thy pasture?
And that's to this day. We suffering for disobedience, but go ahead.
Remember thy congregation which thou hast purchased of the old.
Remember your congregation which thou hast purchased of old. Go ahead.
The rod of thine inheritance which thou hast redeemed.
See, that's what he likened it to, because he redeemed Israel out of slavery, out of bondage, gave them the promised land. So it's likened to a purchase. Don't mean literally nobody paid no money for nobody, but that's how he likened it. He said, remember the congregation which thou hast purchased of old, the rod of thine inheritance which thou hast redeemed. Go ahead.
This Mount Zion wherein thou hast dwelt.
But I'm going to show you the Lord talked like that. He talked like that even to this day in the future. Go to Jeremiah 30, because he talked about, you know, the Lord will give up people for his people. He said, whatever I got to do to save my people, I will do it. Jeremiah 30 and, let me see, the 130. Jeremiah 30 and verse pick it up at verse 1. Jeremiah 30 and 1. Go ahead, read it.
The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord God of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith the Lord, and will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned unto paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it.
Okay, that day is great, so that none is like it. Skip over to verse 10, because I want to get to this, where he talk about what he'd do to save Israel. Go ahead.
Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord. Neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of thy captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid.
So he's talking about bringing us home now, even in the last days. Go ahead.
For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee.
The Lord said, I'm with you to save. That's even down to now. He's talking about in the last day. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee, though what?
Though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee.
He said he scattered us in all. He said, I don't care if I make a full end of every nation where you scattered at, Israel. What?
Yet will I not make a full end of thee.
He said, but I'm going to save y'all. I'm going to save some of y'all. I'm not going to make a full end of you, because he can't lie. He said, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee. But what?
But I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished.
Okay, now go to Isaiah 43. So the Lord talking about, if I destroy all nations, I'm going to save y'all. So he talked like this, because that's the importance. 43, Isaiah 43 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee.
See, he keep talking about redeemed. See, usually you redeem something, you know, it's usually a purchase involved. So he keep talking about that. Some other place he talking about, I ransom you. I have ransomed you. But now, thus saith the Lord thy creator, that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by name. Thou art mine. And that's the moral of the story. Verse 2.
When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee.
See, in this future now, they went through the Red Sea. That was past. This future, when thou passest through the water, I will be with thee. Go ahead.
And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned. Neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. For I am the Lord thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. I gave Egypt for my ransom.
He said, look, I gave Egypt for thy ransom. Go ahead. And some stuff going to happen in Egypt in these last days when the Lord allowed this abomination to go. He going to let them take Egypt down. So he said, look, I gave Egypt for thy ransom. Go ahead.
Ethiopia and Sheba for thee.
Why he do that?
Since thou was precious in my sight.
Since thou was precious in my sight. Go ahead.
Thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore I will give men for thee, and people for thy life.
Oh, he said, I will give men for thee and people for their life. So the Lord is serious about, you know, making sure Israel's straight by whatever means necessary. And that's why he said it, really. You don't get no plane. And they say, I destroy all nations, but yet I'm going to save some of y'all. So that's kind of what he talked about. He ain't really had to come up with no money. He chose Israel, but then he go through whatever it takes to secure Israel. All the stuff he did in Egypt, all the stuff he showed to get them out and get them to the promised land. So,
Purchased indeed.
Yep. And there's a lot of other things we could read. But what you got? You back up over there? Okay, we're going to answer them right quick. Let's see. My phone acting up. I can't see. No. Oh, it is. Sabbath Shalom family, according to the Bible, what part of a woman's head should be covered? According to the Bible, what part of a woman's head should be covered? Okay. Well, let's just read 1 Corinthians 11. First Corinthians 11. So, of course, it's in talking about being in prayer, and this is what it says, 11:1. Be
ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. Now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head.
So it start off with the man, that the man is basically showing us that the man should not have his head covered. Should not have his head covered. Because if he do, he is dishonoring his head which is ultimately, he's talking about Christ. So go ahead.
But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head, for that is even all one as if it were shaven.
But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth, having her head uncovered, dishonoreth her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven. So the question was, what part of the woman? It don't say what part. It's talking about the head. So the head should be covered. I wouldn't say, if you cover your head, it shouldn't. It ain't talking about all the way down to the neck, but it just says the head. Every woman that prayeth or prophesieth having her head uncovered, dishonor her head, for as even one as if she was shaved. So she's becoming one with the man by covering her glory, which is her hair, and coming up up to speed with the man in that image. We're finished reading. Go ahead, verse 6.
For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn.
Yeah.
But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image of the glory of God. But the woman is the glory of the man.
So the man shouldn't have his head covered. Now again, he's talking about praying and prophesying. Not all the time, because if it's cold, a man outside, he can have a hat on, and a woman don't have to always have her head covered. That's, it's talking about when you seek in the Lord. He's mentioned specifically praying and prophesying. So it don't give us no reason. Somebody might say, well, some women barely had their head covered. Well, they need to have their head covered. So that's all I could say. He don't mean no little bonnet on your head, and everything else is visible. He obviously don't mean that. So he's talking about head cover. When I say bonnet, I mean like, I seen people with a bow, kind of like a little bow, and it, all the hair is visible. So that's one good thing. I think we got some bonnets that people complain about, but it covers your head. So that's it. And what's this question on Facebook about divorce on YouTube? Okay, if a wife, Lord have mercy, that's the name of the person who wrote it. If a wife divorces her husband due to arguments and verbal abuse, some physical, she remarried and then found the truth, is this adultery? If a wife divorces her husband due to arguments and verbal abuse, some physical, she remarried and then found the truth, is this adultery? So in short, yeah, it's adultery because, it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. So the short answer is yes, it's adultery. That's what the books say. And we could read it let's read it in Matthew 19. Let's read it in Matthew. Well, let's read it in 5 first. Matthew 5. And we're going to pick it up at verse 30. Matthew 5 and 31. Go ahead.
It hath been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement.
So the question is a little different from this. The question is about the woman doing the divorcing, which the Lord didn't have that set up. But it still were ways for a woman to dissolve a marriage, even though it wasn't a legal, biblical remedy for a woman to take. It still were ways for a woman to dissolve it, and that's just by leaving. So that it amounts to the same thing. But it don't matter, even the legal remedy that the man had, the Lord has taken that away. So obviously the woman don't have that luxury. The man was the only one had it legally in the Bible, and the Lord has taken that away from him. That's why, so this is coming from the man's point of view. That's the way it was. It had been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, divorce his wife. Whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. So that's what made it official, right? 32.
But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery. Whosoever shall marry her that is divorced, committeth adultery.